Hello and welcome to my first ever YouTube video where I'll be playing an FM17 Journeyman game. For those of you who don't know what a Journeyman save is, basically you start unemployed with low starting attributes and work your way up through a range of countries until you've won everything that you want to win. My aim with this save is to win a top league in each continent, so Europe, South America, North America, Africa and Asia. Win the top 5 European leagues, England, France, Spain, Germany and Italy. Win the World Cup and Euros with a nation, win a continental competition in each continent, so all the various champion leagues and Europa leagues around the world, win all the domestic competitions available with at least 3 different teams, so that's the cup competitions and obviously the league, and maybe I'll add some others as I go along if anything comes up and if any of you can suggest anything in the comments, but I think they're a good start. I'm going to try and make this save as realistic as possible. I already have in real life I have an FA level 2 coaching badge and I did play semi-pro for a little while, so those will be my starting attributes, plus the leagues that I loaded recommend a higher level than these stats, so I think that getting a job without these stats would be nigh on impossible anyway. I've played FM since 2005 and I actually played Champman in 0001 and 0102, so I've probably got some bad habits over the years from having played the older games, so any suggestions to improve my game are welcome in the comments. I've had a look around YouTube before starting this series and I saw there are a few guys doing the Journeyman save, but the reason that I've started this is I feel like I could do a better job and give you guys some better tips on how to actually start your own Journeyman save. I've played a few Journeyman saves over the past few years and I've found them to be my favourite save each year. It starts off really tough, so I'll be including as much detail and footage as I can in the first season or two, but once those are out of the way then I'll cut more out and focus on the games and the more important moments from within the season to speed things up. I hope that these videos will inspire some of you to start your own Journeyman save and that some of the things that I do will help you out along the way. My intention is to show you every game throughout each season, but let me know if you think that's too much content and I'll take some out to speed things up even more. I've noticed with a lot of the other YouTubers that they don't actually do any sort of transfers. They usually just show you the overall of who they've signed and how much for and things like that and show you the stats, but I'm going to try and release like a transfer special episode where it will literally be everything that I do. Bear in mind though that it's probably going to be quite lengthy videos because I do like to spend a long time in each transfer window, because to be honest with you it's my favourite part. So let's get started. Okay, so here's the leagues that I've loaded. Obviously, because I want to try and win a competition, top league in each of the continents, I've had to load some from each. I was thinking about maybe adding a couple of these in, which I might do further down the line, but I don't think that I'll be able to get a job in South America at the start anyway. Obviously, these type of leagues I wouldn't necessarily like to go to too much. I have done a save in South Korea on another Journeyman before, so I do kind of like them. I've never actually been to Australia or China before, but obviously they've got a little bit more money, so I'd quite like to go to one of those too. Mexico and USA, I think that's going to be quite hard. I've never actually done a save in the USA before, and the way the league is formatted there is quite strange, and obviously the way the transfers work and things like that, so that'll probably be a couple of seasons at least. Yeah, so we'll see how we get on. In terms of the countries that I've been to before, I mean, I've been pretty much all around Europe, to be honest. I've been to quite a few nations, and the reason that I've not included these ones is because Ireland and Northern Ireland and Wales I'm not so keen on doing, really, to be honest, because they're very close to home anyway, and usually they're quite easy to win because the quality in the league is really poor, so it only takes you to get maybe one good striker, something like that, and then you can do them. I actually started the last Journeyman save I did on last year's game. I started that in Iceland and I did a save in Finland as well. So I've taken those 2 out, but the rest of them, I mean, I've been to Belgium before, Denmark, England, France, Germany, obviously. I've done one in Greece, Holland I've been to. I've not been to Hungary. I've been obviously done quite a few Italy saves. I quite like Italy, to be honest. My favourite 2 nations are probably Italy and France. I usually do pretty well in France, to be honest. That's probably where I've done the best over all of my saves that I've done on Footy Man. I did a save which was my first ever Journeyman save. I started in Norway. That might still be my favourite save, to be honest. I remember I scouted some African nations and got this left back in, and I ended up buying him. I think I got him for something like 10,000, and I ended up, I think something like 8 years down the line, I ended up buying him for Man United for something like 42 million. So that was pretty ridiculous, to be honest. I've done a save in Poland before. I've been to Portugal. I've won both leagues in Portugal, brought a team up in Portugal, and knocked Porto and Benfica off the perch. I did a save last year in Russia, which was pretty fun, to be honest. I've been to Scotland before. I've took a team from the bottom of Scotland and won the Scottish Premier as well, which I thought was quite a good save. Serbia I've been to. I've not been to Slovakia or Slovenia before. Been to Spain. Spain's usually quite tough. Obviously, Barcelona and Real Madrid are really, really good. But I think maybe further down the line, I'd quite like to take some, maybe like Valencia at the minute are struggling. Maybe like a Bilbao would be quite a good one, because obviously they can only sign Basque players, which might mean it's a little bit tougher to do. I've been to Sweden before, won all the Swedish leagues. Switzerland I haven't been to before. Turkey, I've took a team from the bottom to the top in Turkey. I think it is only 2 or 3 leagues in Turkey, but yeah, that was quite a good save as well. I didn't actually win the league with the team that I took up. I ended up getting the Galatasaray job when they almost got relegated the season before, and ended up taking them and winning the Champions League with Galatasaray, which was a really, really good save as well. And Ukraine was one that I did last year as well, and I actually really enjoyed it in Ukraine. You can sign a lot of Brazilian players because they don't need work permits. So yeah, sent a couple of scouts out to Brazil and ended up getting a couple of decent Brazilian players. But quite a few of the good Ukrainians were available on a free. And then I ended up winning the league in Ukraine with a team that I think I'd come up from the division below to win that league. So yeah, that was quite a good save in the end. The thing about quite a lot of these leagues is that if Ukraine's a good example, is the actual Ukrainian players have really high valuations, and that's because the league rules state that you have to have a certain amount of Ukrainians in your squad. A bit like it is in England, really, I suppose, where obviously English players have got a bit more of a value on them because obviously they are English, even though you can go and buy a much better player from abroad for a much cheaper price. But yeah, it's something that you want to look out for, especially when it comes to doing free transfers, because taking a free player at the end of the season that is of the nation that you're in, it might be worth getting them in, playing them a little bit, and see if you can get them going a little bit. But the worst comes to worst, the season after, you can probably ship them for a good amount of money, and obviously then reinvest that money into somewhere else. That's something you should definitely look out for. Is obviously filter the contract expiry by nation, even if you know that they're not necessarily going to break into the first team at any point. Yeah, so I'll come back to you when I'm on the starting screen for the manager attributes. And just one other thing that you might want to look out for is, obviously on this screen you can select all the leagues, so I'll just go through quickly so I can just show you. Probably have to pause the video if you want to have a proper look at this. That's the layout of what I've decided upon. One thing to look out for on this advanced setup is database size up here. I always go for a large database. If you load this many leagues, you're probably going to be okay with sort of like a medium-sized database. But because I like to have as many options as I can for signings, I think that going for a large database every time is pretty much a no-brainer. I have tried a couple of the advanced ones where, say, if I know that I'm going to be in a certain country, I'll load all of the nations, all the players from that nation, sorry. So, for example, if I go into nations and say, let's just add, I don't know, Belgium. You can select some of these. So players based in the nation basically is what I end up doing. The other thing that you can do is, if you say you haven't got the quickest computer in the world, you can basically not have the leagues loaded on here, but you can load them in here. So for example, what I usually do is I'll do it by continent. So Africa is usually one that I do it on. Maybe South America if I've not loaded the South American leagues, maybe some of the Europe leagues, obviously in this down here in nations. And if you select players from top division clubs or top clubs, then usually you get a bit of a trickle down effect, and it'll bring through players that are the youngsters in some of the other teams that are around that. So you end up getting like a bit of a better database, and it's more spread across the world, so at least you've got those players on the game. Otherwise, you basically just get grayed out players throughout all of those leagues, so you're kind of missing out on a couple of continents worth of players. And usually those type of nations as well, you can pick up really, really cheap players, and there's certain teams in Africa, especially Africa to be honest, a couple of the Asian countries where the youngsters come through and are absolutely unbelievable regen youngsters, and because they're such a poor team, they're usually on something like £50 a week or something like that, and you can pick them up for really cheap. So especially if you're doing a save which is maybe in the lower leagues, I found that if you're doing one in England, say you're doing something sort of like League 2, maybe something like that, then that is definitely something worth looking at, because you can end up, it might take a couple of seasons obviously for them to come through, but they can really change your whole game by just getting a couple of those players in, and then usually a bigger team will come along and offer you a couple of million for them, and obviously you can reinvest that money and it kind of gives you that little bit of a boost. Yes, it's just something to look out for. I've selected the coaching badge that I hold and my playing level. In terms of attributes, fitness and goalkeepers can be solved with cheap staff, so I think they must have to go to one, to be honest. I think that mental and youngsters needs to be highish, as I do like to play with a lot of young players, especially when you're in the lower leagues. By any young player who might not actually have the stats that, he might not have the best stats at the minute, but obviously with the potential that he's got, I find that they actually outperform their stats. So yeah, I'll put that quite high. Well, I say high, obviously, because I'm starting off with terrible stats. And then what I usually like to do is I just go moderate on attack, defence, technical, and usually put a little bit more onto tactical, just to give me a bit of an all-round feel. And obviously, as the game improves my statistics, I want them to go up in kind of like a nice level. I don't want anything to be too high compared to the next. The other thing as well is to notice that you can usually get a really good defence coach for quite cheap. And usually you can get quite a good tactical one as well, so it might be worth putting more onto your technical stats, as usually things like that, especially in the lower leagues, yeah, technical and attack coaches aren't too easy to get hold of, and usually you end up struggling on that front. And obviously if you do end up getting a young striker or something like that, then you're going to want a decent attack coach to try and improve his stats. So as for the mental stats, adaptability is going to be very important for this save, because obviously I'll be moving between countries. Usually if I'm playing another type of save, say if I'm going to do like a Premier League save, or if I'm going to maybe go to like top level clubs, or if I've got a good starting stat, I'll usually put adaptability down and put more onto determination. I do like a lot of determination, especially with players as well. I've found that determination, yeah, it's basically linked to how well the player will progress. And I found as well that if you are in a situation where, say, you're 1-0 down, or it's like a cup semi-final and things like that, the players with good determination usually step up and they do play well. So I try and get a high determination stat on all of my players, and also work rate as well, just to make sure that obviously that they are actually putting it in every single time. Because I've found that I've had really good players with like really good technical stats, and the determination's been lacking, or the work rate, and they just don't affect the game, or they might have one good game every 8 games. Yeah, so I'm going to put a little bit onto determination. Also, the thing with determination in terms of your own manager stats is that it's how well you can convince the board, which I've found on Journeyman saves is pretty important, because obviously when you're starting with quite low budget, or if you need another coach or another scout or physio, having that extra determination can mean the difference between actually getting that, and that can actually be the difference between having a good season or not, really, to be honest. I've found, especially when it comes to the coaching, because I've found that some clubs, obviously when you start low, to get rid of a coach, obviously midway through the contract it costs you money, even if it's mutually terminated, which means that you can usually not do that. So if they've got their staff maxed out, their coaching staff maxed out, then you will struggle to, obviously, well, you won't be able to get another coach on board, and usually they won't have a decent fitness coach, which is another thing that I focus on quite a bit, is that I like to run my players into the ground a bit and play them as many games as I can, so that you can stick to kind of like a good 11 to 16 players that are really, really solid, and you don't have to spend as much money on a whole squad instead. So yeah, fitness is pretty key, and I found that just having that one extra coach that you can get from the board can mean that you can get a really good fitness coach in, and obviously that means that obviously your players aren't going to get completely run down over the course of the season. The other thing as well that you need to look out for, I think, on your mental stats is the motivation. Team talks, I think, are a huge part of this game. I found that especially the half-time team talk can really impact on what happens in the second half. And to be honest with you, I've tried so many different ways of, usually when you're sort of 2-0 up, I don't like to say I'm pleased with the players too often, because I've found that they usually take the foot off the gas and you end up drawing the game, or I don't know, you always seem to concede one goal. So I like to have motivation, because at least then for the team talks that you do end up doing, obviously you'd hope that they'd be more motivated than if it was a lower stat. In terms of this Journeyman save, I'm not going to put the scouting stats too high. I'll take the hit on these ones on this one, because I think that usually you can get a decent scout or a couple of decent scouts, so it's not necessarily like a massive thing for you to be able to know it, and especially because I'm going to be starting as obviously an English manager, and I definitely won't be starting England, so yeah, it's not really going to be any use to me anyway, because I'm only going to know English players, and likelihood is I'm not going to be able to sign any anyway. Yeah, so I'm going to have a look around at the job centre, and then I'll come back to you when I've had a gander, and I might have already had an interview or something already, but yeah, I'm just going to have a little look around at the jobs and apply for a few. Okay, so I've had a little look around, I've applied for some jobs, and obviously the way that the save is, like the way that I want the Journeyman save to go is obviously I want to win the top league in each continent, and there was a job available in South Africa with a team called Witbank Spurs. They're actually in the bottom league in South Africa. There is only actually 2 leagues. I think they're supposed to finish around about 10th or something like that in the league, so quite low down in the league, so it should be quite a good challenge. Yeah, they're basically, I think that their reputation that they required, like the reputation that they've got, is a little bit higher than what mine actually is, so I said that I'd do a little bit better, so I think I actually said that I would, yeah, I think I said promotion by winning the league potentially, which is a bit outrageous, but I usually do quite well in the lower leagues, so I'm quite confident that is achievable, even though at the minute it might seem like a bit of a ridiculous thing to do. And one thing that I do want to note is that when it comes to the lower leagues, when a team offers you a contract, as you can see at the top, it says they've offered me a 2-year contract worth £800 a week, and I've lowered it all the way to £325 a week. And the reason for me doing that is basically that at the end of the day, it still comes out as a wage out of the club's finances, and obviously these lower teams don't really have the best budgets in the world. I think they've given me just under 90,000 to spend, and obviously the wage budget in total is just under 16,000 a week. So it's just something to consider, is that obviously you don't actually get to spend the money, that you earn in this game. So it's no skin off your nose. Just put it down to the bottom, and it'll save you a little bit of money. And then obviously I'm just going to take out the promotion wage rise as well, because obviously if I do get promoted, then I don't really want it to go up, because I'm not too fussed about that either. If there is a club, say if I got a Man United job, I probably wouldn't do it, because there's not really any point in doing that. But definitely for the lower leagues, it's something that you want to do. The other thing about it as well is that if you're on a lower contract, obviously to break your contract is a lot less, so that interests other teams. So potentially like a team will look at you, because obviously you might be quite a cheap option for them to come and take. So in a Journeyman save, that's quite important, I think, because obviously you want to be able to move around as much as you want, and at the end of the day, your reputation is probably not going to be the best for the first sort of 3, 4, 5 seasons. So if someone wants to come and snap you up, then having a lower contract actually works in your favour a little bit better. So yeah, I think that it's definitely worth doing that. So I'm going to accept the job at Witbank Spurs, 2-year deal. Hopefully we'll be able to get promoted this season. I think that even if we don't, I think that they'll still keep me on, because I think that the expectations were that low anyway, that, to be honest with you, I think that even though I've promised that, I think I'll be alright. But I think I'm going to try and go for it. I think maybe get qualification through the playoffs, maybe something like that. I've not actually looked at the rules just yet, so we'll have to have a look at those, and I'm just going to go through these interviews quite quickly. If you want to slow the video down and look through them, then you can do. Yeah, so I'm going to have a look around at the news and have a look at the squad. I think the first thing to look for when you're looking at your squad is just to get a feel for the kind of standard that you've got in the squad. And then obviously when you go to do your scouting, it obviously makes logical sense, but when you come to do your scouting, you can actually sort of pit them against each other and see. Definitely an important thing to think about in the lower leagues is the physical stats. Usually you can get away with having players that are much better on the physicals, and they might be quite poor technically, but obviously because they might be fast, they might be strong, they might be good in the air, obviously they can win the ball. You know, you might get a few one-on-ones where your striker runs through, he might be a quick striker and he has terrible finishing and composure, and you might miss a load of chances, but at least he's kind of getting into the right areas and his pace allows him to do that. So I'd definitely look for that. Another thing that you should probably look for is if you can get someone with good decisions in the lower leagues. If a player can make a good choice, usually he'll pick the right pass and play it through, and usually he'll grab you quite a few assists in a season, so that's just another stat to look out for, I'd say. So yeah, I'm just going to have a little look around the reserves. One thing I have also noticed that I'm going to do now is I'm basically going to offer a couple of players to clubs. I've noticed that quite a few of the Journeyman saves on YouTube, they've not actually seemed to do this very much. I don't know whether it's because they don't know that you can do it, or whether they want to have a squad of 30 odd players, but it's something that I use all the time. It might not seem like it'd be the best thing to do in real life, because obviously you want to try and get like a nice harmonious squad and things like that, but I kind of like to make my mark on my team, and if there's a player that, even if I have half an inkling that he might not be for me, then I'll probably just offer him out, and even if I have to offer him out for free, to be honest, just to get a little bit of the wages off, I'll do it. And to be honest with you, once I've made my mind up on somebody, I've found that even if I've got a little bit of doubt, I end up not playing them for the whole season. So I always think to myself, I should have just probably offered them out and just got them out there. The only thing that I do look out for on these is if you offer a player out and you can sell them abroad, I would definitely do that. I know on the last game, and I've done a save already on this game, that players who come, they always seem to come back and haunt you if you sell them to teams in the same league. So yeah, if you can then do it. If you're going to sell them to a team that's going to be around you in the league, sometimes I might not do it if I think that the player is okay. But yeah, I mean, I've sold left backs, right backs, centre backs before that end up scoring off a corner or something. It comes up with that stupid commentary saying you knew that would happen, they've come back to haunt the former club, and you end up tearing your hair out, you scream thinking, why on earth did I sell them, and I probably shipped them for free, they only cost me 100 quid a week or something like that. So yeah, I mean, just have a little look around, maybe sort of filter your squad by contract, see if there's anyone that's on a high wage. In the same way that obviously I try and get rid of as many players, I'm also quite a fan of, if you've got one player that might be worth a lot of money, even though he might be your best player, usually I'll actually just offer him out, which I don't think a lot of people would do, but I offer him out because if I can get a good amount of money and the rest of my team is worth, say, I don't know, a tenth of what he's worth, technically I might be able to buy 5, 6, 7 players, and that's just for the price of him. So obviously you might be taking a hit on selling your best player, but you're actually getting a really good squad together, which I think over the course of the season is much, much wiser, because obviously if your best player, you might get a long-term injury, he might not hit the ground running, he might have a poor bit of form, and if you've literally got, he's your only option, yeah, I've found that you struggle quite a bit, and I did do that on quite a few of my early saves, and it came back to haunt me quite badly, to be honest. So yeah, I'm going to have a look at the rules. So it looks like there's 30 games, which I do quite like, a shorter season. Yeah, no more than 3 foreign players. Must be at least 3 under 23s in the first 11, which is quite interesting. That's not usually a normal rule. 7 subs, free transfers any time. You can actually have a maximum of 5 foreigners in your squad. Looks like foreigners just anywhere outside of South Africa, which might be a little bit difficult. Not very much money offered for any of the positions in the league. I mean, top gets 100,000. God, going to be really struggling for money. So yeah, top team wins promotion. Second and third qualify for a mini playoff league. So it looks as if it's going to be a team from the league above, probably. And then second and third out of our league probably go into like a 3-team tournament at the end of the season. I really, really don't like the playoffs. It looks like it's going to have to be top or nothing if I'm going to get promoted. Striking a match official, 12 matches. Interesting. Well, let's hope that my players aren't striking any officials anytime soon. Yeah, 30 games. I think that 30-game season suits me quite well. The other thing about 30-game season as well is that obviously because there's less games, my whole philosophy of just playing a very small core of players is quite good, because obviously you've got less matches, less chances to get injured. So yeah, let's have a look at some of the players. Yeah, so let's have a look. Peter Moyo. He looks okay. Zimbabwe, 6 foot, not bad for a centre mid. Endoro, goalkeeper. Yeah, foreign goalkeeper might have to be done, to be honest, because I'm not sure whether South Africans have too many good ones. Joshua Salles. He looks really good, to be honest. I know obviously concentration 5 is not great by any stretch of the imagination, but he's got an okay first touch, okay finishing, pretty good finishing, to be honest. Quite quick, quite strong. I think he might be quite a good player over the course of the season. 6'2" as well, which is nice. Good decisions. Skosana. Not too sure about him. He's got an okay pace, but composure 4 is not okay. Hope, 6'1". Not great. Morayisa is transfer listed, wanted by a couple of teams. I think he'll be getting sold, to be honest. What else have we got here? Mofathuthi. No, he looks terrible. Yeah, I think he'll be getting sold as well. So I think I've got a bit of a feel for what's going on. Let's just check the staff. Go to the board and have a little look, see what's down here. Can get 4 scouts, not too bad. So have a little look. Yeah, let's just judge player ability. Oh, this guy's pretty good. Spielman, data analyst. Yeah, it's a new thing on this year's save. There isn't actually any recommended stats for them, and I don't think they actually do anything. I think you might get a little bit of a report, like a weekly report, something like that. I think I read it online that you can do that. So let's just have a little look for some actual scouts. Ryan Dicker is actually still playing. Well, he's interested. Let's give him a contract. 180. See if he'll take 200. Yeah, he will do. Okay. So he looks okay. 13 is not bad. Obviously, adaptability, ability, and judging ability and potential are the ones you want to look out for. So let's have a look at this guy's score. See if he'll take 200 as well. See if he'll do it again. Yeah, he will do. Alright. So I can get 4. So we've got 2 that look as if they're going to come in. Oh, Patrick Anderson. See, this guy usually is like a fail-safe for lower league teams. I pretty much always get him. He's got really, really good coverage of his knowledge. I think he's Swedish and he's got coverage in a lot of places. So yeah, I think he's definite. By the way that I do it with the contracts is basically just go really low ball at the beginning and then sort of moderately go in between and sort of have a figure in my mind and try and hit that figure and just offer it a couple of times. And then obviously if it goes orange or red, then obviously you're probably going to have to try and offer whatever they've asked for if you really want them. But usually if you offer the same thing twice in a row that's kind of like a medium range, then you'll get them. Yeah, so that's 4. Josta Mboy was the last one. The only reason I've picked him there is because obviously he's South African and the rest of them that I picked weren't South African. It's a bit of a shame that Rory Campbell couldn't come on. He's got 20 adaptability, which would probably bode well, but yeah, he's only been a scout at Barnet before, so he's not exactly he's not really a worldie. Seems to have a lot of wingers. I don't really like playing with wingers at the moment. I've changed my formation over the years basically so that I play with wing backs now. So I'll play like a 4-1, maybe like 2, and then 3 up front, which might seem ridiculous, but especially in the lower leagues, it seems to work out really well because the teams can't handle. You just can't handle 3 players up front. But if I play with the wing backs, I always play with like a defensive midfielder in there. Yeah, usually as like an anchor man, maybe as a ball winner. And then the 2 centre-mids that I pick are always box-to-box midfielders. Yeah, so wing backs just on automatic. There's no need to go anything too extreme. They usually get quite far forward at times. And what I found with the wing backs as well is that they don't seem to get picked up by the opposition teams too much. Like wingers sometimes get marked out of the game. Yeah, so they usually actually end up having a lot of space. Yeah, so I'm just going to load a couple of my current formations in. And then just try and create some sort of team out of what I've got, which isn't really, I don't think that's really going to happen, to be honest. I really think I'm probably going to have to sell quite a few of these players. We're really struggling to put a team together at the moment. Yeah, the other reason that I play with 3 strikers usually, I mean, I'm setting it up as like a 4-1-2-2-1 at the moment, just because obviously we've got a lot of wingers in the team, but can usually get a core, and obviously if you only do that, you need say like 3 or 4 fullbacks, 3 or 4 centre backs, and then all you need then is the centre midfielders. So you get like a couple of defensive midfielders, a couple of centre midfielders, and then you literally just get like 5 or 6 strikers. And if you got the wingers, it means you'd have to get like more players, because obviously you're gonna have to get like 4 wingers. And in a lot of these leagues, like the wingers really aren't that great. And I think that if you can't get one that's got good pace, then you're really going to struggle to actually break teams down anyway, because you're pretty much relying on them doing something from like a standing still, which, yeah, I don't really like doing that. So that's why I usually play with the 3 up front. But I did set up like that because I thought we might actually be able to make a team out of it, but at the minute we really don't. So I'm just going to quickly have a look at some goalkeepers, see if we can find like one that's actually from South Africa, sorry. It's looking bleak. This guy looks okay. This is another thing that I do quite a lot of, is just offer trials to a lot of players. Literally, it's with as many players as I can possibly can. It's really worth it, because obviously you get like a free pass at them, and a lot of players really will come on a trial to you if they've not got a contract, and you can just basically just see how you get on. Yeah, I mean, in terms of goalkeepers, obviously positioning is very important, and I usually go for sort of aerial reach. I've found that if you don't have good aerial reach, then basically the corners, any sort of crosses, things like that, literally you just get so frustrated with the goalkeeper because he just lets it go over his head. And them stupid ones where like the fullback will go for like a cross and it'll end up going in the far corner. Usually that won't happen. Anticipation's usually quite key as well, because I think at longer shots, anticipation's quite, yeah, they end up letting the ball go through the legs and things like that, so you don't really want to have too low anticipation. So let's have a look now at let's have a look at anchorman. It's my favourite position. I just love a defensive midfielder. I don't really know why, to be honest, but usually you can find a bit of a beast. Yeah, this guy looks like he could be okay. This Tiali guy, might have to have a look at him. Yeah, this Tiali guy, I think he could be the one. Like, just looking at his overall defensive stats there, obviously you can see that he's a lot better than the rest of them. This guy looks like he could be good. Good determination, good off the ball, good work rate. So definitely going to give him a trial. He's got a great name as well. What's that? Sutsalupa? Don't know whether I want to be saying that throughout the course of the season, but let's see. Give this guy a little go as well. I mean, I am looking for an anchorman and he's a right back, but let's see. Filter by tackling. Byron Hendricks. Oh yeah, he looks really good. Again, he's a right back, but yeah, we'll have a look at him. Another thing that I do like to do is just basically like retrain players in different positions. I mean, it's probably not the best thing to do because they probably aren't playing to the best potential, but if I see a player and I see his stats and I think, you know what, you'd be good as this, yeah, I do it pretty much every single season. I'll have at least 2 players playing out of position probably, which might seem a bit stupid, but I find that if you, especially in the lower leagues, because you've really not got that many players to look at, you might end up with 4 right backs, but a right back that can play centre mid and one that can play defensive midfield quite well. And it's never really hindered me, to be honest, in the past. I mean, it comes up as red most of the games until you learn the position, but I've done really well. Like, I've won many leagues with players playing completely out of position, to be honest. So yeah, I'm just at the minute, I'm just scanning through the stats, just having a little look. Obviously, I can't really see any of them, which is a bit annoying. I didn't like it when they brought this in a couple of seasons ago, but it obviously does make a lot more sense because it was quite easy before. Is that like you literally sent like one scout report and then you'd know exactly what exactly what their stats were, which is pretty stupid, to be honest. So I do think it takes a little bit too long, but I suppose that's what makes the save difficult when you're in the lower leagues, isn't it, really? I do actually have a scout, I've just realised, so I've just started scouting a couple of players. I've not checked his stats just yet, so presumably he's not going to be too great. So there's not really anyone that I want, so I'm just going to take a couple of these stats away, just focus on the key ones that I need. Might get a couple of centre backs in this list. He looks okay. Start off in the tryout, see if he'll come. Another thing with the lower leagues as well is that usually there is a lot of free transfers available, which does help you out quite a bit, so you don't really spend too much money, which is nice. It's quite nice, but this guy looks okay. This guy looks okay as well, but well, concentration, decisions, anticipation, passing, jeez. But let's give him a try and see what he's like. Filani Malloy. Gonna have some good names. Clifton Davids. If he's anything like Edgar, then we'll be alright. So let's give him a trial. Kind of running out of options there, to be honest. I mean, I'm kind of looking at trying to find someone who's got like, I don't want someone who's going to have like two, like that guy, what's he called, Pafana. He's got 2 to 8 pace. Like, we can't be doing that really, to be honest. 1 to 7 stamina, but just trying to find ones that've got like moderate pace, and then just check and see what the physicals are like, the rest of the physicals are like, and obviously the technicals and mentals, and just have a see. Yeah. So let's have a look at trying to find a winger. Shabalala. Well, there's a great Shabalala in South Africa, but I don't think it's this guy. Let's have a look. Sort it by pace and see if we can get some in. He looks like he could be okay. He looks really good, actually, to be honest. So let's give him a scout. Let's have a look. Technical. First touch. He looks like he'll be okay. Let's give him a trial. Hopefully no other teams will come in for these on trials. We can get a free pass and probably end up having about 20 trialists at once. That's about so good. Add him in. The reason I'm adding things to the shortlist indefinitely is because I know it seems stupid, but I usually, in the past games, I've done it for like a year, and then sod's law is that a year later I'm looking for a player and I think, oh, I'll definitely put him in my shortlist, and the game's automatically removed him, and I've skipped past the message that tells me that that's what happens. So yeah, that's why I do that at the minute, and then basically I just go for a bit of a clear up after a while, and just sort of, once they've got a star rating, I'll just delete the ones that are below a certain star rating. But he looks okay. Not great. It's not really looking too good at the moment. This guy looks okay though. Yeah, he looks okay. Let's give him a scout. How much does he weigh? 1.3k. That's a bit of a bargain. Usually these teams, though, to be honest, even though it's 1.3k, this guy's 17. It's good. Yeah, even though they're really cheap, you end up asking for like 40, 50k, and you just can't afford to do it. Just while I'm looking through this as well, the other thing that I do use, which probably isn't to be advised, especially for the lower league teams, is that I will do a lot of monthly installments. I say not in lower leagues, but to be honest with you, the transfers are that small that you can usually afford it. But yeah, it's kind of scamming the teams out of the players a little bit, I suppose, because you're paying it over like 48 months, so they're getting like trickles of like 10,000, like $2,000 a year or something like that. So, but yeah, I'll use that to literally max out as much as I can out of my transfer budget. Let's see this guy on the trial as well. I've just filtered it to sort of like a really basic striker level, off the ball, first touch finishing. Just gonna have a look at some of these. Not great, but you just really can't see. You really can't see until obviously you've scouted them. So let's just add a couple more. Drop it down. Add work rate in. Drop it down. A lot of teams are interested in him. Only on a youth contract. 17. School of Excellence. That looks like it might be one of those little teams that end up producing good youngsters potentially. They're usually called stuff like that. The other thing that I usually do as well is that this guy looks like he could be okay. Let's give him a trial. I usually do, depending on the filter, if I change the filter by quite a bit, I'll see if there's like an overlap of players. So like if I change it, say like I take 2 out and put 3 more in, and there's a player who's appeared in both, then I'll usually try and remember them and obviously go for them and sort of either offer them a trial, scout them or whatever, because obviously they must have stats that I'm looking for, even if I've dropped the stats down by a little bit. This guy looks okay. Nonchinga. Is that a team though? How much is he worth? That's 20 grand. It's not the best. Hoffenberg. Mama Schiller. It's a great name. Give him a trial. Who's this? Jose Garcia. Doesn't sound South African, but let's see what he's saying. Alright, so we've skipped to the next day. Looks like we've got a couple of bids for this guy. Let's have a look at him. I mean, he's not horrendous, but he is foreign. He's on a little bit of money a week. People are interested in him as well, so I might just free up a little bit of money. This guy's actually got a bid of 3.5 grand on him, so that's probably going to be accepted. Shall I ship this guy? Yeah, let's just get rid of him. Alright, let's have a look at the budget. Not looking healthy. We need to knock a bit of the wages off, so them two are probably going to help us out a little bit. So we'll skip quickly through. Let's have a look at these. Still can't really see. Yeah, I'm probably just going to have to leave these. Yeah, let's just skip past these, and then we'll come back to them in a couple of days' time, or something. Well, in a week's time, or whatever it's going to be. Alright, so then let's have a look at the training. So this is going to be quite important over the course of the season. Let's have a look at how the coaches are distributed. I'm not even doing anything at the moment. Yeah, I'm pretty poor. I might just do me as like take the hit on keeping the bottom quite nice so that it's light. Yeah, we're struggling for goalkeepers, coaches. Flipping it. Let's have a look at how many coaches we can have. Spurs coaching staff. Current 5, advised 3. Right, so we're fucked basically. Let's have a look at this. They're not going to do it. They've not done it. That's pretty annoying, to be honest. So we're going to have to keep what we've got, so the keepers are going to get absolutely rinsed here. Fitness. Oh, no. So after everything that I said, I knew this would happen, is basically that we'd end up getting shafted on the fitness front. Which, in these leagues, it really is important. It really is important, because usually when I look at the other teams, like their ratings and stats and stuff halfway through the game, they've got like 10% less fitness than me. So really, we should end up like dominating the game towards the end of the game, which is a hope, but I'm not sure if it will definitely happen. Can't add anything else. Bit devastating. So we're stuck with what we've got by the looks of things. Okay, so I think we're going to leave the first episode here. Obviously, we've not really got too far. We've already skipped like a day so far, but in the next episode we'll get quite a bit further in, and obviously hopefully the scouts will come through and we can have a bit more of a search through the players and hopefully make a couple of transfers, see how those trialists are going to get on, and then probably end up shipping about half this team, because at the minute it's looking very, very bleak. But I think we'll be able to do all right, to be honest. I think with the right transfers we'll do all right. So yeah, so if you like the video, then let me know in the comments. Yeah, feel free to subscribe or whatever. Yeah, and I apologise for the fact that I've got such a monotonal voice, but I hope that what I've said in this video might help you out. And yeah, cheers. See you next time.